We're here with a gorgeous BMW X1 89. This car is beautiful, a luxury car. And I must say, this is one of my best clients. This client trusts me 100%. I wish all clients would be like this. She gives me no grief. She doesn't give me any challenges. And when I do diagnosis for her, I always go above and beyond because she's such a nice person. So this car has loss of power steering. So what she told me that she was driving, and then she got a message on her display here saying power steering assist off, and she also got a message on the dash showing like a steering wheel with an exclamation mark. That's what she described it to me. I've not seen it yet. And she said she lost power steering completely. It became hard, but she managed to get home. That was 2 days ago or 3 days ago. And then yesterday she drove it to the grocery store and it was fine. I'm here this morning. This is an intermittent problem and I don't like intermittents. I hope we get our power steering warning today. Now, a word of caution. If you're using your ThinkDiag, make sure you download your BMW before you come on site, because look at the size of that download. That's 1.9 GB. Crazy. I'm at 68%. I've been downloading that for 30 minutes. So while that goes, we'll use our Maxidas and let us get into the vehicle. I'm going to do a whole system scan and see what's up. So as that is scanning, oh, there we go. Nice. So at least I don't have to come here and waste my time. We are faulting right now. That's what she said, but there's nothing on the display. But let's see. Oh yeah, there's no power steering. Oh my god, this is hard. Jeez. This is harder than normal. If you lose power steering in a BMW, you're going to sweat your pants off getting home. Okay, let's scan it. There's a warning now on the display: steering assistance faulty. Alright, let us go to our report. Now the report on the Maxidas is really trashy. So we got the camera, I'm not interested in that. Instrument cluster, power supply has been switched off, that's not present. Oh, and we have one that's present. Message: electrical power steering, that faulty, receiver, combi, transmitter, EPS. And then the other thing I've noticed is we do not have any EPS showing up on our list of modules here. No power steering. Well, that gives me some direction. I think we're dealing with a communications issue, and we are still faulting. and we still don't have power steering. So what would you do in a situation like this? No codes, fault is there, basically it's hard. I'll tell you exactly what would happen if this car goes to the dealer, and your guess is they're going to put a steering rack in this thing. Do we have a steering rack problem? I'm going to go on the route of the communication, because that's where my evidence is leading me. Let's pull up a wiring diagram and then see how this power steering system is set up, where it gets its powers, its grounds, its communication from. And I keep ranting about circuit diagrams for European cars. BMW is no better. They have a weird way of displaying their wiring diagrams, but it is better than others. At least on theirs, what you see is actually the wiring diagram, and it's not some kind of track, but it's laid out in a confusing way. Let's go to the wiring diagram and pull up the power steering. My large data download is complete, so I'm going to switch to this one. I like the reports display on this much better, so let's. Look how much faster this thing is. Wow, that was quick. Alright, so there's our report, pre-scan report, and we just have the same three that we're looking at. My area of focus is going to be faulty receiver combi transmitter EPS current, and again we don't have any EPS showing up here, so we are totally dead in the water with our power steering. Either we have a communication issue or a power issue or a ground issue. Let's pull up the wiring diagram. Now for BMW, Volvo, VW, basically these German cars and European cars, you need to understand that if you do not do your homework and get functional description of how circuits work, you're going to get burnt. So the first thing we're going to do is to read up on how the electromechanical power steering works. It says here with the E92 and electromechanical power steering, EPS, electronic power steering, is introduced in the BMW 3 Series. The EPS will be introduced with diesel engine in 2006. Gradually, the EPS will be introduced as a CO2 reducing measure on all other models. Why is it a CO2 reducing measure? Well, because electronic power steering does not take load from the engine, and anything that does not take load from the engine reduces emissions. So it differs from the conventional hydraulic steering in that it has a steering servo. The EPS supports the driver with an electrical servo motor instead of a hydraulic drive. The servo motor is only active when the steering is used. This means that the servo motor consumes no power during straight ahead driving. Good to know. Electromechanical power steering offers the following advantages, and here it is. It's a very tiny rack. It's thin because it doesn't have hydraulics inside. So here you have the servo motor on number 2, and number 1 is the EPS control unit. It's attached directly to the servo motor. Number 3 is steering box, and number 4 is a steering torque sensor. Alright, brief description is listed here. It says here the EPS unit consists of the following: the control unit and the servo motor. The EPS control unit is part of the electromechanical power steering. The EPS control unit is connected with 2 plug connectors to the vehicle power system. The steering momentum sensor is connected via another plug connection to the EPS control unit. Okay. So again, here we have the motor, the control unit, the plugs. All right, it says here it has position sensors. Now we're interested in this area here. The following other control units communicate with the electromechanical power steering, and we have a list here. We have steering torque sensor, the EPS control unit. Number 3 is a DME. This is the engine control computer. Number 4 is a DSC, which is dynamic stability control. 8 here is CAS, car access system. 5 is a junction box, electronic unit. SZL is steering column switch. And 7 combi is the instrument panel, the combination meter. Now there's a line here which says KL15 WUP is terminal 15 wake up line. Okay, I'm familiar with the terminal 15 wake up line. This is a 12-volt signal that's sent, and I believe it is sent to multiple modules at once. It's like a tree, and once the modules receive this signal, they wake up. It's like ignition key on of some sort. In fact, if you don't have this terminal 15 wake up line, a lot of modules will play dead. Okay, and then we have, all right, so this is basically it. Now we go to our wiring diagram here. Now I only have these wiring diagrams here because they're the only things I've worked on in this vehicle. I do not populate my TIS with things that are necessary. I just don't have the time for that. So let's go to the electromechanical power steering. So this is the electromechanical power steering, and the location, of course, is the front of the vehicle between the two wheels. So it has a fused power supply from the fuse carrier, from the rear fuse carrier. Why put it so far away? That is strange. Anyway, and then here you have a capacitor box. Now this is an important capacitor. There's a lot of kickback current, electromotive force that these motors exhibit, and if you don't have this, it kicks back voltage onto this circuit. And I've seen these go bad in two ways. First, it shorts out and it completely kills this line and it blows that fuse. The second way is that it goes open, and when it does that, each time you utilize this motor, it sends a kickback signal so strong that it corrupts other modules. So something to watch out for that. Then you have the powertrain can high and can low, and then the terminal 15 wake up line. Now this is what I was saying. If you go here, you see this? That wake up line comes from the car access system, and it trees off to so many other modules. So when you put your key on, 12 volts is sent to wake up all these modules, and they're all on the same terminal 15. And then we have a powertrain can. Now BMW, they have two types of connections. So there's the connector. So if you see a dot here and here, this is not a connector. It's a spliced connection. So for example, if I come here, you see that? It doesn't show a connector, but it shows a harness. But in this spot right here, there is a spliced connection where you have got these two connections coming off of this main harness. BMW love using splices. They're unlike Toyota. Toyota love using comb connectors and splice connectors and junction connectors. BMWs use as few connectors as possible. So they only have splice connections most of the time. They don't have junction connectors. That's one thing I've noticed. Interesting how when you work on these cars, you find little quirks of different manufacturers, what they love doing and what they hate doing. So if you go to our powertrain can, this is our powertrain can, and here we have our electromechanical power steering, and you see it's spliced off this connection over here, and it's spliced off the main line coming from the junction box. And then you have the DME, fuel pump, control unit, transmission control, etc. So all these things are on the powertrain can. And you have your steering torque sensor and a ground. So here's my plan. I want to see what we are missing, if anything. So I'm going to check my power supply here, check if it's good. And I'm going to check my two can lines, can high and can low, and my terminal 15 wake up line. Those are the crucial things on the ground here, but I only have a 4-channel scope, so I'll put channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll only address this ground if I see something funky in the behavior of any of these signals, because these are the only things that this unit needs to run. Now, if I don't see anything wrong here, then I will address the steering torque sensor. But from experience, the steering torque sensor usually is a problem when the unit is functional, but it doesn't have a good input, like it turns the steering on itself when you let the steering go, or it refuses to give an input to something else, like the ABS unit. So right now I'm more concerned about this main unit because we have no communication from it. So let's go and get into those wires. Our electromechanical power steering is not that hard to get to. We just drop this, which is the undercover, and I'm concerned about the type of material that BMW used for their undercover. This seems a bit too flimsy. It feels like some paperboard, and it's getting wet when you wash the car, especially the engine, and it just sits down here. As to the longevity of this thing, I don't know how it will hold up. But that is not the story. The story is this. That is our electromechanical power steering, and that's our major power feed from the battery, and that's our ground, and that goes to the motor itself. And this appears to be our communication lines and our wake up line, and it's the proverbial lock connector. So we're going to open this. I don't like disconnecting stuff, but you can only remove this when you disconnect the connector. So let me disconnect it, pop that out, and then put our scope on it. Alright, I've removed the back cover of that, and this is not our CAN connector. We only have two wires there, and they are brown and green, and that looks like the torque angle sensor. So I'm going to return that, and both tabs broke, just my luck, and it's expected. This environment here is very harsh for these plastics, so nothing we can do about that. We'll get a new connector. The other one is up there. That one. So that's our CAN, and I am not going to open it, seeing as what has happened to this other connector here. What I will do is I will peel back this, and I will probe the wires from the harness itself. Yep, there's my CAN high, CAN low, and terminal 15 wake up. Now the CAN high and CAN low are very tightly wrapped. I really don't want to go to the connector. Let me try and unwrap them enough to get my probes around them. Alright, this was a bit of a nightmare to probe, but we've managed. So we've got permanent battery power on channel 1. Channel 2 is the terminal 15 wake up line. Channel 3 is CAN high. Channel 4 is CAN low. Let's go to the scope. Our picoscope is connected, and make sure that your leads do not touch the serpentine belt. These picoscope leads are expensive. I've learned that the hard way. You only have to do that once, not to do it again. Okay, right now the car is asleep, and as expected, we have permanent battery power, and our wake up line is 0, and we have no CAN communication. I'm going to go put the key in the ignition and start the car. We'll see what happens to our CAN. Key in the ignition. First we'll put the key on. And let's start. Engine is running. We still have a power steering error. Let's go look at our scope. And look at that. Wow. That's an awesome capture. Let me pause this. Let me save this. And then put off the car and we discuss this. So what do we see? Our permanent battery power is remaining. Our permanent battery power is remaining at 14 volts. Our wake up line, terminal 15, is 14.6, 14.5, which is good. But look at our CAN. Let me back up a few screens. What do you see here? Does that look like a good CAN to you? It does here, but it doesn't here. What is going on with our CAN? That is definitely not normal. The strange thing is, we do have good CAN in this region where the data packets are. So the question is this a problem or not? You know, I've been burnt several times by what appears to be a poor CAN network, but it's actually good. As much as I don't like this, remember that the control module only sees CAN communication as a differential of these two lines. So as much as there's noise here and it doesn't look good, I want to see what the differential is. So we'll go to Tools, Math Channels, and this is C minus D. That's what we want. So let's create, and we're going to create C minus D. You'll finish, and we'll select it here. Okay, and look at this, guys. This is what the control module looks at, and this is what is tabulated. I do not see anything wrong with my CAN signals. My CAN high and CAN low appear to be good. I appear to be having good data packets. My question though is this: is this data from the power steering control module, or is it coming into the power steering control module? That'll make all the difference. The only way to know whether this communication is to the module or from the module is to disconnect this connector. Now these connectors, I've already broken one, but I have no choice. I'll try to be careful, but we have no choice. At this time, we have to see whether this control module is getting communication or all this activity is coming from this control module. Wow, check that out. I was actually lucky with this connector. It came out intact in one piece. Beautiful. Now let's go back to our scope, turn it on, start the car. And if we have communication on that line, then it means that unfortunately this power steering module is bad. All right, our cable is disconnected. Our Pico is set up. Let's go start this car. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but unfortunately it appears that that module and that rack is bad because we have communication. And not only that, but look how good our line is now. We no longer have that disturbance on our line here. So we are done. This needs a new steering rack. Oh, I tell you, this is going to be an expensive repair, unfortunately. And this car is really well taken care of. She keeps up with everything. Her oil changes, her service schedules. It's very clean. But this is the way it is. European cars, man, quality control is an issue. So we need a new steering rack. Now, in case you're wondering, is it really the steering rack? Yes, it is. There's nothing else that can cause this problem. Right now we have everything that rack needs to function. It has its wake-up line, it has its powers, it has its... Oh, we've not checked its grounds though. Let me check the grounds, by the way. Yeah, and you'll notice how it is disturbing the CAN communication network. I'm surprised other modules are still able to communicate, considering that it's corrupting the network. But again, as I said, the noise rejection is such that it takes... all the modules take A minus B, so they are not really seeing that noise that we are seeing. But for a diagnostic standpoint, that noise is actually a good pointer. So the only thing left, let's look at the grounds. But we are really done. I do not think the ground is a problem, but you never know. Cover our bases. Let's go and look at the ground. So I've relocated my channel 2 to the ground, and that's the red channel. All the others are remaining the same. So our scope is running and our ground is on the red channel, and right now it looks like we do have a good ground. So we're going to take our test light, connect it to battery positive. First we test the test light, and that's it. And let's go down there and check. We touch our pin, just make sure that we have a ground. Oh, let me get in there properly. Okay, so let's touch our pin, and as you can see, we do have a good ground there. But that test is not enough. Loaded test. Let's start this, because that ground could be disappearing when the wake up signal comes to wake up this power steering. So let's start the car. And we are running, and on the scope we still have a good ground. There we go. So we are done with this. Unfortunately, she needs a new electronic power steering module, which in this model is the rack. One final test. Let's look at our CAN line while I connect that connector, and you'll see that our CAN line will get messed up on the base of the line, but the communication with other modules is still okay, because when you do CAN high minus CAN low, you still get excellent waveform for data. So let me plug that. Right, so let me reach in there and let's plug in the power steering connector. Now there's a fan behind me, I need to be careful. Alright, so we're ready to plug in. Watching the scope. 3, 2, 1, and plug in. And there we get our wonky ground baseline is messed up. Yeah, that rack is bad. Alright, we're done. If there's a follow-up on replacing this rack, I'll bring you along. Otherwise, that's another one for the books. See you next time. So in case you're wondering why I am extremely disappointed and why I'm saying this will be very expensive, I'm sure you're wondering, why can't I just change the control unit, since that's the problem? Well, let's come here to our EPC and look at our electromechanical power steering. That's the EPS steering gear. Look at this. You can only buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it. You cannot buy the control unit alone. So here's the steering box, and here's your part number, and you have another one here. That's your part number. Always take the one that is highest revision. Now if you see this EXCH, that means it's an exchangeable item only. So let's come in here into the info, and you see the part number here and the description, and on technical info it says here old part number is that. That's what I was saying. When you see these two part numbers, always take the higher series, which will appear down. And then here it says additional information. Attention, part is subject to teleclearing. Exchange clearing required. See this document. So you need to send this back in as a core. They will charge you a very high deposit of 1,000 euros, believe it or not. And you send this in as a core, and once the core reaches them within 6 months, I think you will be given your money back. It's an expensive venture, but that's not even the issue. Let's take our part number and let's search for it, and I want you to see how expensive this thing is. Yeah, to give you an idea of how much this sucker costs. That is our steering rack. Check this out. Online only. So you need to order this, and it's 2,256.21 euro. That is ridiculous. Let me give you the price in dollars to give you an idea. So let's come here, 2256.21 That's your price in dollars, $2,436. This is insane. Insane. And by the way, you import this thing, this is minus shipping. You buy this, you have to ship it here. Shipping, I've shipped a steering rack before from Europe, and I can tell you it's about €500. So let's see how much it'll cost to import this thing into Kenya. You are going to pay €500 for shipping, and you are going to pay taxes, which is 10% import duty, 16% VAT, 1% rail levy, and then there's KEBS. I've calculated the whole thing to come to around 29%. So let's take our price, $22.56. $22.56 times 0.29. You have taxes of €654. Add to this €500 for shipping. Add to this the price, €22.56. That's €3,410. This is insane. And then, what is our current euro to Kenya shillings? Hold on to your breakfast if you've taken it. So this is €34.10. Let's come here and put it €34.10. This steering rack is going to cost a ridiculous 476,138 Kenya shillings. Amazing. Add to this the labor, add to this the diagnostic fee, add to this the flashing of the unit, because these have to be programmed if you buy them virgin from BMW. You're talking about close to 600,000 when you're done. This is crazy. So this is why I'm disappointed, and I don't know how to help this lady. This is why I tell guys, be very careful buying BMWs. Just actually Euro cars in general, BMW, Mercedes, VW, all these Euro cars. I mean, these cars are wonderful, they're beautiful, they're sexy, but when it comes to repairing a major part, yeah, it'll ding you really, really hard.